have control. I have control. I have control. Execute.
Yeah, you're easy.
I'm very agreeable.
Yeah, yep, very.
Yep.
Well, no. Agreeable.
Oh, J-Lo is easy, baby.
Yeah.
Speaking of J-Lo, I just saw recent pics of her. God damn, that woman looks good for her age.
She looks good for almost any age.
She was like she was on a boat in a bathing suit, and I was like, God damn.
I think that's the only environment that she should really be in. Bathing suits and near water I'm
good with the deletion of the bathing suit part.
Yeah, of course.
You know.
But
But she has class.
Does she?
Yeah, at this point.
J-Lo, I guess. I don't really know much about her.
Has she done nude stuff before? I don't think she has.
I don't know. I don't
think she did. She did that stripper movie where she was a stripper, but she didn't strip.
She was in a stripper movie?
Yeah, she was like the head of like a group of like women that like were like taking somebody out, and they were all like adult entertainers or something like that. I forgot the name of the movie.
Oh, okay. The only movie that I really remember J-Lo being in is Anaconda.
How about Enough? That was a great movie.
Does that also have like a 40-foot Amazonian snake in it?
No, it's better because she learns she's abused by her husband, and then she gets away, and she learns how to defend herself, and then he finds her, and she winds up beating the crap out of him.
I mean, it sounds
it's a really
cool.
good movie.
What movie is it called?
It's called Enough.
Enough. Just
Enough.
N-U-F-F?
Enough. E-N-O-U-G-H. Enough.
Oh, okay. E-N-O-U-G-H. Enough.
Yes.
Okay.
And then there was one where there's a couple movies that are kind of the same movie. There's the one with what's her face? The traitor from the Vietnam era. Oh God damn it.
Hanoi Jane Fonda?
Yes. Where she plays the mother-in-law. It's actually it's like a chick movie, but it is actually entertaining.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess you're just way more into the Jennifer Lopez filmography than I am.
My wife likes them, so like,
Yeah.
you know, it's one of those things where like I put her through some stuff, so
you make up for it by watching
I do
J-Lo movies with her?
J-Lo,
well, that's why it's your call sign.
It's right, baby. J-Lo's here. Baby's
Max,
got back.
J-Lo.
That's right.
They are one and the same.
Yes.
But yeah, I guess we can welcome everybody to the Berm Limits podcast.
Today we're talking about J-Lo.
Yeah, and that her outstanding assets. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, that's really the only thing to talk about, I guess. In that,
I think I could talk about it for hours.
But I guess she does have musical talent, and she's obviously, established herself as a long-standing.
I guess Ben
film artist.
Ben Affleck's got to have something going on because she like went back to him.
Wait, did she?
Yes.
How did we devolve into now talking about celebrities?
I don't know.
Relationships
because there's
on the podcast.
There's an asset involved. It distracted us.
Yeah. Has there been any other celebrity news lately that we should?
Well, I don't know. Are we going to talk about the debate at all?
Oh, we will. Yeah,
okay.
for sure.
Okay. Well, I'll leave this for later on. But like, I watched something this morning. It's being broadcast by the enemy, and it was interesting to listen to.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is why you should definitely pay attention to what the enemy is putting out there.
And, you should definitely pay attention to this podcast.
Yes.
Because I'm sure we will be talking about fun stuff like J-Lo and, for the hell of it, we might as well just talk about like...
Andrew's beard.
Well, we'll talk about that too. But what's that... Oh, man, how am I blanking on her name?
I don't know.
The biggest pop star in the world.
Britney Spears?
No. Like now, not 20 years ago.
Oh, Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift and Kelsey, is that his name? The football player. Yeah, we're obviously we're stretching a bit thin, trying to
we're really
speak intelligently
up
about this
on
stuff.
celebrity and football, apparently.
Yeah, But okay, so now we're actually going to talk about things that people who listen might actually care about, or what we think they might care about. Well, who the hell knows?
Who is the sponsor of today's episode?
Well, there is a sponsor of today's episode, which we should mention first and foremost.
Yes.
And that is Combat Art Training.
Yes.
Run by Mr. Andrew Smersek.
That was a nice read on his name, I have to say. That might be your best.
I think it's the first time I've ever said it correctly.
Is.
Down in the Central Florida area.
Yes.
And you know what? Andrew makes... he teaches great training. He makes great social media content. And he just sent us one of these. Max has had one for forever. I haven't had one to put through its paces, and he sent it to me. So that's why he is the sponsor of tonight's podcast. It is one of his bandoliers. It's just a bandolier, right?
It is the bandolier.
Yep.
I have used this now in 3 classes. I used it for shotgun, I used it for FAFO, and I used it for the live fire portion of live tissue lab.
Yep.
And I had zero interest in this product, like no interest.
Yeah, really sell it, Max. I'm sure Andrew's going to be
to the point where I said to him multiple times, "Why are you making this?" And then I support my friends and their businesses. I said, "Well, you know what? Screw it. I'll buy one." And then I had it, and then I stored it the way he suggested you store it, and I was like, "Oh my God, that's beautiful," because it stores up so small.
Yeah, it's a great package.
Yeah.
For me, it's going to live in my go bag, like my gear bag, if you will, because I usually keep a few extra mags in there, but sometimes they're loose, sometimes they're in a thing. This is, I love the idea of staging stuff in a location because for me, bandoliers are about like stowage.
Yeah.
They're like, if you need to like throw the strap over your shoulder and bring it somewhere real quick outside of that bag, awesome, even better. But it's just exactly what you need to like move mags from one place to another. So I'm super excited about putting it through its paces. I have to call Andrew because you just handed this to me. Apparently he sent it to you and said it needs to go to Mike.
Yeah.
So you know what? He's a good dude. Andrew's an awesome guy, and I know he would. He's weird because he makes amazing gear.
Yes.
You should absolutely check it out. Love his stuff. I haven't gotten a single thing from him where I'm like, this isn't awesome.
Correct.
But at the same time, he's like, I fucking hate making gear because it takes me away from teaching students, which is obviously where all of our hearts lie anyway. So I understand where he's coming from with that. Do you want to knock some more stuff around on the table?
the amount of chaos this is going to cause him in post edit is going to be.
There's no editing on this, so
well, whatever. It's going to drive him nuts. The audio is because I've been banging the mags, then I banged my phone, tactical headband. I moved my mic, which I'm sure is going to create some kind of chaos.
Right while we're trying to talk up a sponsor. So I'm sure for all the future sponsors to be like, I really want to advertise with this podcast. But
hey, this is real. We're doing it live.
Fuck it. CombatArtTraining.com. Check out what they got going on if you're in the Florida area or anywhere else. He's got a class coming up here to the Pennsylvania area in just a couple of weeks, patrolling the homestead, which he's teaching with Jay Gibson from Praelectus Training. And I'm super excited about that. We're both going to be taking that class together.
Well, I'm going to be assisting.
He's going to be assisting the class. Sorry. I get to take that one as a student. It's awesome. Or I've heard nothing but great things about it. So looking forward to that. So definitely check them out. I think
I'll be running a camera.
Yep. Awesome.
Possibly crashing his drone.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. But so that's the sponsor for tonight's episode. And why don't we get into so we're going to take a slightly different approach today. I know we're a few minutes into the podcast already, but we figure we're going to start giving you a little tidbit of what's to come throughout the entire episode instead of just waiting for like the news stories. So we're going to jump right into the stupid old-timey news voice, which apparently I'll never be able to get rid of.
No, he's stuck with it.
Actually, I've never heard. I think there's been one other person outside of this room who's been like, no, I love that voice. You need to keep doing that. And I'm like, this isn't enough of a sample set for me to feel confident that people actually want me to do this.
I mean, Jay thought it was great. Jay?
Yeah. He liked the old time.
Yes.
I don't know. But
And
yeah,
Jamie loved it.
well, she just says whatever she needs to get me out of the room quickly. So, we're gonna give a little overview, shall we?
Do it.
For June 29th, 2024, these are your bulletin points. This week, 2 geriatric egomaniacs stood in the limelight and proceeded to completely dishearten the American public through cookie-cutter rhetoric and moments of complete incoherence. And an update on several pivotal decisions handed down by federal courts on key issues related to the Second Amendment. These stories, a training tip about unusual but useful items, and a special discussion on what keeps us coming back to training as students tonight on the Berm Limits podcast.
That was pretty damn good.
I think that was the first time I didn't mess up
Like
one of
you,
these.
like fully through the date was right. Everything.
Everything,
Like,
yeah. I didn't stumble
Yeah.
once. That's going to be the only time that ever
For,
happens.
at least for the next 10 podcasts.
Yeah.
Something like that.
You know what? As I was reading that, I realized that I'm going to have to run and grab the thing from my range bag that I want to do for the training.
As he was saying it, I was wondering, like, I know mine's on the table. I don't think his is.
Nope. Totally forgot it. We managed to bring our drinks down, our Monster Rehabs. That's training tip number 1.
Hey,
Monster Rehab.
Monster, if you want to sponsor, like, really, you don't have to be shy about it. I know you're watching. I know you're just completely enraptured by, you know, the idea of the podcast and the personalities behind it. So really, step up out of the shadows and let's get some
Right. We know
sponsorship.
the entire Monster marketing
We know
team
you're
probably
watching.
listens and watches this pod. They probably do both, right? Like
I'm sure.
they're going to listen on Spotify. By the way, we're on Spotify. If
In case
anybody's
you didn't
unaware.
know.
And they're going to watch the whole thing on YouTube, paying
Yeah.
close attention throughout the entire episode and watching us.
I'm sure they're tapping along to the intro music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. I'm sure they are aware of us in any way, shape,
Yes.
or form. Not.
With those delusions aside.
Yeah. So, but yeah. So we got a bunch to talk about tonight.
Yes.
First up being our training tip. So our training tip for this evening
Yes.
is, and this one we haven't seen many people tackle it, like something unexpected that people may not necessarily think of when they see it in your range bag, or what, not when they see it, but like that you put in your range bag that comes in super handy.
Yeah, like, I mean, like, that's kind of the genesis of mine, is that I was surprised to see it.
Yeah. So what is yours, Max?
My training tip or unexpected thing is called a church key. These are mainly used for opening bottles or opening your paint can. But what they do very effectively is a couple things. One, it's got this claw, and what that's able to do is you can turn sights with it. It works for almost every single red dot sight for fitting in and doing. It's like basically.
Oh, it does have a
flathead.
pretty thin little tip in there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could see that.
So for adjusting your sights if you're zeroing, also it does a very good job of clearing bolt over malfunctions, which is kind of the genesis of why the guy, which is Patrick Woods of Prepared Patriot, he was the one that I first saw have it. He had it stuck in the molly in his rig.
Yeah.
And I said, why do you have that? And then he told me.
Actually, I could see this being super useful. Like, you know, I would even put this into kit, like the kit category, not even just the range bag category.
Yep.
But like I carry a pry bar in my kit, but for the same reason to effectively clear a bolt over if I have to.
Yep.
But this is thinner, and it's probably a little bit easier to get in front of the bolt.
And it's yours.
Oh, it's mine.
It is.
Look at that. I get 2 things. I got a bandolier and a church key. It's even made by this amazingly bespoke company called Loez's.
Loez's. Yes.
Lowes. I've never heard of them before.
No, neither have I.
They're
a tactical manufacturer.
Yeah, tactical manufacturer.
Yes.
Well, I've definitely bought gloves from Loez's before.
and paint
and
cardboard
yeah.
and staples.
Maybe some bins.
I bet Lowe's and Home Depot have filled more range bags than Brownells has.
Oh yeah,
I'm willing to bet.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Nationwide.
Yeah,
It's probably not even close.
Mm-hmm. Although
but that is my item.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that one a lot. It's nice and small. I think that's the nice thing about it.
The handy thing for him is like he has he instructs like you do. So he has like little things on his rig.
Yeah.
But they're on his fighting rig.
Yeah.
But when he's teaching, he's wearing his fighting rig, so it enables him to do the things. So there you go. That's
a good one. So clearing bolt overs, fixing sights, general prying type stuff. These how much is one of these things?
Well, hold your seat.
Right.
63 cents.
They actually charge for these?
Yes. Well, if you go to some of the higher end paint stores, they just give them away. But if you go to Loez's, 69 cents.
69 cents. Well, that's a deal and a half right there.
Yep.
Cool. All right, I brought a couple. One of which is an actual thing I made. Something that I hadn't ever seen anybody make before. All right, so this, if you're watching, there's a bundle of what looks to be just some paracord in my hand. It's held together by a Velcro strip. We can do a little ASMR treatment on the.
Nice.
Do you know what ASMR is?
Yes, I do.
Okay, I don't. I had to figure it out recently.
Oh, okay.
So
it's huge in porn. But go ahead.
Oh. All right. I didn't even know. Learn something new.
With a Grimlock.
So this is 25 yards of paracord. One side of it is affixed. Well, actually, both sides are currently affixed to. This is called a Grimlock. It's a Grimlock little carabiner type thing. And what I do is, so it's 25 yards on here. Obviously, you can take 25 yards and use it as a range finding tool.
Right.
So it's a 25-yard piece of rope of paracord that if I put my range bag down at my target, I can attach this Grimlock to the range bag and drag it out 25 yards, and I'll have 25 yards that I can either zero off of, or I can go 25 yards out, mark the spot, move my range bag, go another 25 yards for 50 yards.
You can easily go 50 or 100 yards.
Right.
Much.
And the
hassle.
reason. And I wanted this because I always leave my little like tape measure. Like first of all, tape measures only ever go to like 15 feet or something like that. And
I have a 100-yard one.
Yeah, but it's usually those are pretty big and bulky, right? Or you get the big ones that you have to reel.
That's what I have. Yep.
So I wanted something small that fit in there. Now, what I also did was I was like, but sometimes I need reference that isn't just 25 yards. Because 25 yards is good for, well, actually 50 yards is good for zeroing for most things that I use for. But I'm like, but I want to have a referenceable spot for 3 yards, even though I can pretty much tell you where 3 yards.
3, 5, 7.
3 yards, 5 yards.
Right.
10 yards, 15, 20, 25.
Right.
So along this rope, I've marked out knots, which I use as interim markers. So there's a little knot on this rope. One at 3, 5, 10, 15, 20. So I'd never seen anybody actually make one of those. Something that's pre-made, something that's just easily kind of, and
it takes up no space.
It's like a fistful of paracord. Only downside is right now I'm going to have to undo that whole thing. Undo that rat's nest of a fucking pile of rope. But when you use it, it actually doesn't, get all.
I think it's a great idea.
Up. So, but it's good to have as a reference thing for distances. So, that's my little tool, my little tip for this evening. Although I do have one bonus.
He does.
And I know we probably get, people probably consider us to be shills for our friends, but I don't care because I will talk great things about my friends as much as I possibly can. So one of the things that I always keep in my range bag is a box of carry ammo. So right here I'm holding a box of Defiant Munitions 9mm 115 grain plus P,
which we both carry in our guns.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not going to tell you what you need to carry in your gun. However, I will tell you what I carry in my gun, and it's Defiant Munitions because it's great stuff. I've seen a lot of the ballistics tests. I've seen it in gel. I've seen it in different through different materials. I'm not going to make a case for Defiant right now. If you want a good recommendation, go with Defiant Munitions. However, I always keep a full box, or at least enough of a box to fill a magazine in my range bag. And there's a very specific reason for that. Can you guess what it is?
No, go.
It's because I always fuck up.
And so what he's about to say is that he burns a mag of carry ammo because he does not think beforehand to take those magazines out of his gun.
I can't even tell you how many times I've gone to a class and I don't intend on taking it as a student, so I don't think, oh, let me swap out all my carry ammo for range ammo. And then I'm helping teach or something like that. It's like, hey, I'll do a demo and I'll whip out that fucking smoke wagon and burn 7 rounds of Defiant and
cry a little bit inside
into the target and go, fuck. Actually, it sucks even more when I accidentally do it with rifle rounds. And that happens far more than I wish it did. But
I do it on purpose.
Well, you should. I mean, you should have a shooting schedule that gets rid of the carry ammo out of your gun.
That's not why.
Okay.
So I do it on purpose because for the most part, and there's an instructor that he is taking a class from his channel. I think it's First In.
Oh, Gino Galati. Yeah.
And one of the things that he is big on is cold drills.
He
has a lot of videos on it. Check him out. Great videos, great instruction.
Yeah, Gino's a good guy.
And I like the idea of my gun's full of lint. My gun has been dormant for however long. I'm going to pull this sucker out and not only test the gun, but test the ammo that's in the gun. And I've done that ever since my first class because it makes me cry a little bit inside because they're expensive and the ammo that I carry is more expensive than it used to be. But at the same time, it's a very, very non-biased way of testing what you're carrying on you because it's in the moment. That first drill, the first shots fired is kind of like you're cold. You get to see what you're actually doing and hitting the target, and you actually, I think, get a very effective and legitimate test of not just the gun but the ammo that's in it.
Yeah, no, there are a lot of people go like, oh, well, you need to switch it out every time. It doesn't kill me to know that I shot some good ammo, but it's just like one of those things where you try to mitigate like unnecessary costs as much as you can. So, definitely. Those are the two things in my range bag that I wind up kind of going to the most.
Because I don't even want to think about how many people walk away from class with FMJ and that's what they're carrying until they get home or until they think about it. I guarantee you it's the vast majority. You
know what? I've also learned to kind of like take on the idea of ball does it all sometimes. Like it works. It will do what you need it to do. It's just not as good as it can be. So, and not to mention there's the over penetration, aspect of it, like the likelihood of it over penetrating and going somewhere that you don't want it to is higher. But listen, I'm not going to tell anyone, oh, you can't carry ball. You can't carry whatever, carry something and just take care of your shit. Yep. And have contingencies in place so that if you do go somewhere, actually the worst thing in the world is getting to the range and like, okay, I brought a bunch of carry ammo or maybe I brought a box or whatever and you accidentally shoot through your carry magazine and then you shoot through your box.
Now you have nothing.
Now you got nothing. That's the worst scenario. So that's why I always recommend having a box of good stuff that you're not going to put in the gun and shoot.
Yeah, I like it.
Just in case you run out of something, it's, I've been known to fuck up a time or two. And sometimes I come up with life hacks that help me recover from fuck ups. So.
And I mean, let's face it, walking away from a class disarmed in any way is kind of, it makes taking the class kind of pointless.
Yeah.
Not pointless, but it certainly takes away some of the benefit of it. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. So that's our training tip for this week.
I like it.
Cool. All right. So find things in your kit, in your bag that you think are maybe strange, maybe somebody hasn't told you about before, and share them with us.
Please.
Like in the comments. We'll make a little post over at the Bulletn community on Facebook. Come on over there and put your contribution, please, because it's things like this that most people don't know about, like that aren't like you got to have Ear Pro. Yeah, of course you have Ear Pro in your range bag, or you got to have an extra holster, whatever's in your range, a cleaning kit. Yeah, we know, but we want to know about your church keys, and your paracord yardage tools and things that you find really useful that you don't hear people talking about. Those are things that people want to hear about.
Yeah, and the reality is like you could literally like open someone's eyes to something they hadn't thought about before.
Mm-hmm. Like, and give them a new idea for something different.
A bottle opener / paint can opener.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And for cracking brewskis after the range, nothing's better.
Hey, it works.
All right, so we got our training tip out of the way.
Yes.
So now we get into some of the stories of this evening. There were some big ones in that lead up, huh?
Yeah, a little bit. Nothing like freedoms being taken away.
Oh yeah. So there's
awesome. 2
themes tonight. One, why don't we start with the topic du jour of the last couple days?
You mean the geriatric debate? Is that what you're talking about?
The 2020 or the first 2024 presidential nominee, or no, it's not even nominee, presidential debate.
Yes.
Did you watch it?
No. And the best part is like I had every intention. I'm going to watch this.
Yeah.
And then I was tired and went to sleep. I was in bed and asleep by 8:30. Like I just completely I was out of it. But yeah,
Did you see any clips from it?
I've seen many clips from it.
Yeah.
And like watching the clips, I'm like, oh my God, no. Like, but now granted, this was a plan all along. I fully believe that it was the plan all along, but well, go ahead and start. I'll bring this up. This is There's a little Easter egg that's coming. But yeah, go ahead and do your detail thing.
Well, I mean, okay. I don't actually have a lot of detail. I was just going to tell my story of this because like I wasn't paying attention the night that it was on, and then I flipped. I was like, oh yeah, that's on tonight, and then I saw that they were broadcasting it on YouTube. Clicked on it, and it was miraculously right at the start of both Trump and Biden's closing arguments.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched that and I was like, oh, this is fucking stupid. Like there's nothing in here of substance. And like, I'm like, I wonder if they're just both tired after going for 90 minutes. So I was like, all right, I heard that. It immediately started going into the CNN, commentators right after. So it cuts to the studio as soon as they leave the stage. And this is what got me, because I was like, and the closing statements were out there, and like Biden was a little spacey. And I had trouble following what he was going on. Like, maybe he means that or whatever. Not that I think you should have to interpret what any presidential candidate is doing. But then as soon as it went to the studio, they were like, they were like, it's CNN, right? Like they are a bastion of.
They're an action arm of the
DNC. So they're like, that was a terrible performance by President Biden, and they immediately went, we're getting reports right now from high-level Democrats across the country that they are thinking about removing President Biden from the ticket. I'm like, what? And like, how did they go right into that from the get-go?
Was planned all along.
Well, yeah, I know.
You know the answer. So that was what I was going to say, is that I saw some of the clips. I was like, okay, like nothing Trump said was really revolutionary. I think he did a very good job of restraining himself. Like
what?
I said from the beginning, if Trump like does the Trump thing and goes after Biden in any personal way, which was what I think a lot of people expected him to do.
Which he did.
He did. Okay. So
all the time.
Okay, so
like if you watch the actual debate, not the clips,
Yeah,
it's
I did not
literally
see the debate.
every other sentence is him going, this guy over here. He's just shit. He did a terrible job. I left him with such a great thing. And like,
comment below how much you like his impersonation
oh
of
my
Trump.
God, it's tremendous.
Stupendous.
Like it's so. He's such an asshole.
Yeah. So
he's such a fucking asshole.
I'd seen some of the clips and I was like, okay, whatever. And I saw some of the clips of Biden doing his geriatric mumbling and nothing surprising. But then my wife had Good Morning America on, and they start talking about how he's being replaced. Like openly talking. They're like, wait a minute. They're saying the things they're not supposed to say out loud. Because they're openly talking about what other options there are, that there's major contributors that are threatening to pull out. Like it was like, I'm like, okay, this. I was actually shocked and surprised. So I'm like, wait a minute, like if this wasn't planned, then I really wish I was a fly on the wall inside the offices of the DNC as the debate's going on, because it may have been an interesting place to be standing and listening to the comments.
I'm sure there was a ton of people with their jaws. So I went back and I watched, I don't know, 60% of it, and I just gave up on it because I'm like, this is just, it's sad.
It is.
Because like, you get two different experiences when you watch the clips. Like sometimes they'll give you the bonus, like, the things that matter. And then sometimes you have to absorb all of it to like get a real sense of what's going on. And like just going through and it's like, oh man, Biden is struggling. Like,
Jesus. Yes.
Like hardcore.
Yeah.
And like there were quite a few like total gaffes of like things where he was teed up. Actually, I know we've mentioned it before. Jon Stewart is back on the Daily Show, so I watched his take on it.
That's what I should have watched.
This is why I love Jon Stewart. Like he really has, in my opinion, moved to being like the true centrist view. Like just pointing out the absurdity of everything. I identify with that.
You mean like how comedians once did?
Well, yeah, but even comedians nowadays, they always have a slant, but like, and he does too. Like he admits that he's like a Democrat, like he's rooting for Biden, but like, and he's like, it wasn't good. Like he ripped Biden apart.
Yeah.
And like it's deserved because he totally like, they call them senior moments or sunsetting or whatever the thing you want to call it nowadays. Like he would start like a response to a great tee up for a thing that's supposed to be a slam dunk for the Democratic Party of like, hey, President Biden, what are your views on abortion and why President Trump is a piece of shit? And he tries starting out strong. And then by the end of it, totally like accidentally veered into immigration, which is not a strong suit for Democrats. And like, totally got lost in what he was trying to say. And you can tell, or at least to me, in these kind of like situations where you have to like memorize sound bites and like I've done that stuff as part of a career in term, not debate, but like basically learning script or objections to things and like presentations. So I was like, oh, he totally just conflated one objection handler into another and forgot his talking point and mumbled into another. And I'm like, that's a sign of, I mean, like, listen, that happens to people on the best of their game. So I'm not going to say like it can't happen to him, but it was every other question that it started happening to. And people were going like, oh, that was what we were unfortunately expecting to see.
Well, and I said something to you about this, during the week, is that his statement that there's been no loss of life during his. Oh yeah, he made a couple of. So my daughter was very close with the Marines and the corpsman who died in Kabul during the bombing. She knew all the Marines. She was very close with the corpsman. So when she heard that statement, along with a lot of her fellow military members, it pissed her off to no end.
I could imagine it would. Like if you're making a claim that during your presidency no U.S. service members have died or have died in combat or whatever, either you're stretching the idea of what combat is, or you're just totally disassociated with the fact that you have service members that have been under your command that have died. And it's sad, but not unexpected.
No, I mean,
like we knew, like this has been the thing everybody talks about. They've been expecting this forever. The jarring part about the debates is how now afterwards everyone's going like, oh yeah, no, we've all known. Like, no, you guys have been saying he's fine, and that everybody who criticizes him is like just being mean, and they're MAGA addicts or whatever. And it's like, no, we're all just finally acknowledging reality that he is not in a good mental state to run the country or really run anything. However, at the same time, let me also point out that Trump basically boasted and lied his way through the whole thing too. Like, he's delusional as well. He's just willingly, like, I think he's just duplicitous, like, which at least you could say has some mental capacity to it. But like, he's just doing what Trump, like, and I'm not saying anything new. Everybody knows Trump does this.
Yes.
Like, he just lies. He just throws out lies because he knows that people aren't going to like fact check them on the fly and whatever. And just completely does ad hominem, against the person attacks on whoever he's talking to, and just comes across as a generally terrible human being. So like, yeah, watching that thing. I stopped halfway through. I'm like, where do I submit my vote of no confidence? Like that's where I'm at. Like, I mean,
I'm straight up like. I have listened to, I don't know how many interviews with JFK Jr. and I, without any hesitation, would vote for him. I don't like his policies on the Second Amendment. I am not a fan on some of his policies, but I do believe that he at least is telling you. I would sooner vote for someone where I disagree with what they think, but they're being honest about what they think and what they believe, than someone where you have no idea where his actual beliefs lie.
Yeah.
So I mean, like if I have a choice like that without any hesitation, is my vote.
My I know a lot of the friends that are close to us and people that because I tend to not be in line with like a lot of the conservatives that tend to revolve around the firearms world. Like I try to be a centrist about stuff. It's like one of the things I admired about Bernie Sanders. Like, he was like, while he's batshit crazy, like in terms of like policy and things I disagree with, and how he thinks that he should run a country, or that people should run a country, I should say. Like, I disagree with him, but I did not find him to be, like totally disassociated with reality. Like that, like I found him to be a person like, okay, he believes in his convictions. He believes the things that he's talking about. He's smart, but wrong. And I can respect that. Would I want him to lead the country? No. But I always just found him to be like, you know what? I bet you, like, as much as I disagree with that guy, I'd like to meet him in person because he seems like an authentic human being. Yeah. And that garners a lot of respect for me, or from me, I should say. All I got is like, where's Gary Johnson when you need it? Like, Johnson Weld. That was like my the last time I gave a shit about any candidate. I was like, no, yeah, he's good. We should all vote for him. And then he got that huge gaffe where he couldn't point out where Syria was on a map or something like that. I forget, but like that, man, like that's like that. If that's the bar for a third party candidate, yet like we can like let the two main party candidates like get away with basically being, at a point where they need to be put in a home, or like where they can't function without.
It's elderly abuse.
Yeah.
Like if you had any other situation, if you had a person that is compromised mentally and you're forcing him to speak in front of people so that you can collect money and continue to get contributions, in any other world, in any other situation, you would be going to jail. It would be elderly abuse.
Yeah, I mean, well,
You know,
if there was no consent, and I mean, who's to say that? I'm sure there's enough lucidity for him to understand a general sense of what's happening, but he's just not performing in the political puppetry that they all do.
And unfortunately, Ross Perot killed the legitimacy of a third party years ago. So
yeah, he was the closest, right?
He legitimately stole votes from the Democrats and the Republicans before he pulled out.
Yeah. Oh, that's my favorite thing. Like when that I forget, was it 14 or 16 that it was the Johnson Weld thing, and I told people I'm probably going to support the Libertarian Party because they seem to actually have the only candidate that I would actually feel like can do the job.
Right.
And that was sacrilege.
Mm-hmm.
And I had people from both sides telling me you're wasting a vote. You're just pulling votes away from who should be. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? How is it that we live in a country where it's not they're not opposed to me voting for somebody that I think should be in the office. They're opposed to me siphoning votes away from somebody that shouldn't be.
Yes.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, you're just throwing a vote. You're giving a vote to Hillary. I'm like, oh, first off, I don't like either one of the main party candidates. I don't care which one I'm siphoning it away from. I think this person, that's how we should vote. But no, it's not. It's not how we vote. It's not the reality. And I understand that. Okay, let me make one more point about this. And, cause I'm a little fired up about this. How the fuck did we get to the point where the first presidential debate of 2024 is just these two fucking guys? Where are the other there's no other candidates? I know we've got it's been the writing on the wall, but they're not even fucking nominated yet. Yeah. We haven't had the conventions, and that this like you alluded to might just be a ploy, a strategic thing for the Democratic Party to be like, look, now we can throw another person in the figurehead spot without it looking too bad because Biden can't perform. And okay, I get it, but where has debate and where has the idea of selecting the best person for the job gone in this country? Because every other year you still have people that challenge the sitting president for the nomination.
I mean, that's the thing that gets me is that the DNC decided there would be no primary debate, that there would be no debate on with anyone present that would be against Biden inside of the Democratic Party. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely and utterly ridiculous. Well, and even the fact that they even allowed a debate to happen. How do they get to choose? I mean, I guess you could say it's just the laziness of the people that are registered Democrats.
Well, it's just it has nothing to do with their laziness. It's everybody's laziness because no one's challenging it. No one's up in arms about it. No one's disagreeing with the fact that it shouldn't be, or that it okay, we're gonna have the two main party candidates. We can't have anybody else. We can't have imagine how that debate would have gone if there was a third person on the stage that was just mildly competent and coherent.
Well, that's why they didn't let it happen.
Well, we can't let that happen. That person would look way too good compared to those fucking guys.
But think about who. First of all, the fact that it was CNN, right? It was CNN.
Oh yeah, it was CNN.
So CNN. So again, action arm of the DNC.
You could put fucking Charles Manson as the third person on the stage, and people would be like, you know what? He seems pretty reasonable.
A lot of good points.
Yeah. I don't know where he stands politically, but hey, you know what? He seems like a pretty decent guy compared to those others.
And quite honestly, I said JFK Jr., if that man didn't have the voice that he has and didn't have the vocal issues that he has, that kills him. It really does, because people have a hard time sitting and listening to it because it's rough. It really is. It's rough to listen to.
I like how he's a disruptor, but especially with the COVID stuff, and I think he's exposing a lot of what is probably reality. But I spent a lot of time trying to get through his book, the real Anthony Fauci, and like a lot of it is just so personal. Like he seems like he's got just a personal gripe that it turns into. So it's like it almost like took away from the like being able to consider him to be somebody that's trying to speak truth to somebody that seems to have like a personal retribution factor. And it's like,
Yeah, I don't know.
but I mean, he's another guy that's been in politics for like his whole life. He's a Kennedy. Like it's just another person in the ruling class.
Well, it was interesting that like he talked about like how like he saw like he claims that the Kennedys did not make their money through bootlegging, that this was all basically oh
well, then he's definitely a liar. Like
again, I don't know. I haven't looked into it. I haven't researched it. It's what I've always heard. It's what I've always believed. Whether it's the truth or not,
I mean, who cares if they did? I mean, it's like 3 generations ago.
Yeah,
so.
But this the whole debate, and I'm curious to see if they even allow a second debate to happen. I mean, I know they have one planned, but the question is going to be who is going to be standing there as a Democratic candidate. Because the other thing too is as a tactic against Trump, if Trump's people are planning all these things against Biden, and then in the last month they switch to a different candidate, it's going to be a disadvantage on his end because now he's got to basically turn and face, a different opponent. And what's going to happen. You're going to have Biden is going to continue to run, for support for whoever they choose. He's not going to argue the point.
No,
because if they're doing that, they've been planning it. It was in the works before they announced the debates, and he knows exactly what's going on.
Maybe it wouldn't surprise me if if it's all contrived and planned out. It exists all on levels of power and influence that are so far beyond us and the like normal people. But like, there are so many things happening behind the curtain that and the absurdity of it is finally just coming to light, and it's just like it's so disheartening. So I don't know. I
tell us what you think.
Yeah, tell us. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of people out there that are confident in their candidate, the figurehead of their party, and you know what? That's great. I'm happy for you. I just it's so sad to see things the way it is.
It's sad to see what the options are. I mean, it's sad that they're supposed to be the best of us. That's the idea of it. Is these are the people that we choose. That's the best that we can find to represent us, and
it's supposed to be. But you get the government, you get the candidate that you deserve.
Yep.
We have an uninformed and lazy electorate that just wants to go by sound bites and prima donna, what's the right term? Cults of personality. So that's what we're gonna get.
Exactly.
Anyway,
good stuff.
Fun things. It's only gonna get better from here, folks. We've only got another 6 months or 5 months until the election,
and the country's never the same again.
November 5th or something like that.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
Wait, is it November 5th?
Yeah, 5th or 6th.
It's somewhere around
One
there.
Of those.
Like
beginning of November.
It'd be fucking hilarious if it was Guy Fawkes Day.
It would be.
Is that
That's the 5th of. That's the 5th of November, isn't it?
Election Day 2024. Oh man, it is.
It is the 5th. Interesting.
Remember the 5th of November. God, same day this year. Man, that's not an omen.
Don't wear a Guy Fawkes mask on the 5th.
Oh, I'm wearing a Guy Fawkes mask on.
Don't do it. Don't do it anywhere.
I'm going to go to the polling place with a Guy Fawkes actual like a surgeon mask.
We're going to have to do the podcast from Guantanamo. Is what's going to happen. Jesus.
Oh man. Okay.
Anyway.
So stay tuned. I'm sure we'll talk about that.
Yep.
A bunch more. But the other main topic for tonight, other than the wonderful election debate that we got to experience, is some developments, some new stories coming from the not the executive branch, but the judicial branch.
Yes.
So what do we got, Max? You had an interesting one, and what did you find out this week?
So there was a recent decision that that the Supreme Court made, and basically it was upholding a standing law of basically if you have a oh my God, my brain's not working.
Restraining order?
Thank you. If you have a restraining order against
order of protection,
an order of protection against you, that your firearms are taken, your Second Amendment right is taken away.
Can be.
Okay. And this is an upstanding federal law. So the case was around a man who was accused of basically dragging his girlfriend into a parking lot, and then he also threatened people that approached them with a firearm. He was also, his home was gone into, and they found a bunch of different firearms there that were basically taken away. So this case went up to the Supreme Court.
Hold on, wait. Let's break it down real quick. So you read a story about a guy who did bad shit.
Yes.
Who then had a order of protection or a restraining order put on him.
Yes.
And they then removed his Second Amendment rights.
Yes.
Without necessarily being convicted of anything.
Correct. Because it was just so my issue with this whole thing is the idea that your rights can be taken away without due process.
Well, I'm getting to that.
Yeah.
So that's what happened, and then it got challenged, and then the Supreme Court said
8-1 that they upheld the existing federal law.
Okay, gotcha.
So it's the first decision that has come down from the court that is slanted against the Second Amendment. Is basically was like the cookie cutter kind of post about
is it the story. I don't know. Like
I don't know that it is. But this all kind of rolls into the idea of red flag laws, the idea that your Second Amendment rights can be taken away without due process. That does exist.
Sure. But like, did you not know? Did you know that?
No.
Oh, okay.
So I knew about obviously we all know about red flag laws. What I did not know was that if you have a restraining order against you, that your guns can be taken away. Yeah,
depending on the location, the municipal or the jurisdiction or whatever. But I think it's generally been the case on a state and federal level that if you are under investigation or you have an order of protection against you for domestic violence,
right?
It is generally accepted that you will have your Second Amendment rights removed during the procedures,
right? So
it's taking a step before it gets to conviction to say, hey, we're going to temporarily remove these from you while you're on trial.
Yeah.
So
and like my experiences with restraining orders, I had a friend who was having an argument with his wife at the time, and she had a restraining order put against him, and he had to remove himself from his home.
Well, that is what a restraining order is.
And it wasn't necessarily any presence of physical harm that had happened. There was no witnesses to physical harm. It was just her going to the police saying, hey, I'm afraid of him. And the police prodding her to go ahead and go forward and put a restraining order.
Well, did he have to surrender all of his firearms?
There was no discussion of firearms.
Okay, so there's a difference there.
Yeah.
Because a restraining order is one thing. A restraining order based off of reasonable like exigent circumstances or things that deal with domestic violence are different. So
but the way this reads in the federal law is that if you have a restraining order against you
for domestic violence, yeah, they upheld it.
Yeah.
So, that's always been I think there was like the FPC and the Gun Owners of America. Did they jump on that case as well? So I see
that makes me wonder, like, it's like, I understand supporting any attack on someone's Second Amendment. I understand. I get it. But at the same time, like, if you read through this guy, this isn't a good guy. Like, he wasn't a good guy.
Yeah, I don't know why you'd hang your hat on that guy's case, but I mean, you don't always just defend the good people. Like, if the government is making missteps and doing things that are unconstitutional, you defend everybody. Everyone's entitled to a defense, right? The question is, and this is where you and I know we talked about this off the podcast a little bit in terms of like, what is the line? Like, is it okay in any way, shape, or form for the government to remove someone's Second Amendment rights without some form of due process, meaning going through a trial, being present to be able to defend yourself, confront your accuser, have a jury by your trial, or a trial by jury if you so choose. Like, that's what, and that's the crux of of red flag laws, right? It's really the same thing, but I would say that even this case is a little bit more restrictive in the sense that this is a restraining order for people who are domestic abusers.
Yeah.
So like because at the same time you can look at the statistics and say, domestic abusers are so much more likely to kill their partner. Like when they've already been proven or reasonably like suspected of performing domestic violence. So like, what's the balance? Should it always be that they don't get their guns taken away? Because a lot of times, like more often than any other subsect, they wind up either hurting that person more or killing them.
In my opinion, I think you should have if you're afforded the ability to defend yourself. I don't care what it is. I don't care what the offense is. I don't care what the charges are. I think you should have the opportunity to defend yourself. If they're going to take away your rights, if you decide not to come, if you decide to not attend that whatever it is, trial, if it's a meeting with a judge, whatever it is, then that's on you. Well, but you should be afforded the right to defend yourself against what you're being accused of doing.
Well, let's chat about that for a second, because the fundamental basis of the judicial or the criminal system is that a warrant can be issued for your arrest, right?
Yes.
A warrant removes your freedom, like all of it. It's incarceration, right? Temporarily while they figure shit out. What would be the point of being present for you? Like, we should all be present for warrant reviews, like for judges to sign off on warrants against an investigation on us that arrests us. Like, that would tip you off if you were a murderer. Like,
sure.
Yeah. Like, so there has to be a line. There has to be a line. Like, you can't, like, I get it. Some people are absolutists when it comes to the government shouldn't be able to do anything, but there are certain things that do work. There are certain things that's like, oh, common sense. Like, and I'm not using it in the ironic sense that people use to justify bullshit like extreme gun laws. I'm using it in the, hey, if you put 12 people or 20 people or however many people in a room to say, hey, what is a good solution to come up with that we can all agree on pretty much unanimously in this room to combat this particular thing, I think most of them would go, I think it's pretty reasonable to say if there's enough reasonable doubt to warrant some sort of warrant or order of protection to say there is proof of this, but we haven't gone through the trial yet. They go, yeah, well, let's remove remove the rights for now while we finish figuring things out. Like, it's not going to be so damaging for a person's entire life. You're not removing their ability to have guns forever. You're removing them while we figure out the trial or while we do the due process.
Right.
But some things need to be more expeditious than that.
I get it.
I think. I don't know.
But it's no different than, it just, I've seen how blanket it can be to have that restraining order, the order of protection put on somebody.
Yeah.
And the idea that for something that could potentially be frivolous or something that could potentially just be, a bad actor on either side of things, I think that your rights being taken away without your ability to defend yourself in some way, it just seems wrong.
Well, that's the problem. It's opening Pandora's box, right? Like, because it gives somebody the key that just doesn't like people with guns to go, hey, that guy's a terrorist or that guy's a domestic abuse or whatever. Like, I'm red flagging that guy right over there. Okay, but do you have any evidence? Doesn't matter. You gotta take everything away, incarcerate him while we figure it out. And like, even that short amount of time can be damaging. but that's where like the deterrent, like what deterrents are in place against that?
Yeah.
Well, there's civil liabilities. Like, you have to be like, if you enact that type of will on somebody, you can be brought to court and sued to hell for it.
Yep.
So those are the checks and balances in the system. But do we even give people the key to the box of, chaos?
I think it's been proven time and time again. If you open the box even a crack, they're gonna storm through it.
I'm sure they will, and there's going to be a lot of people that get hurt that shouldn't be because of people taking advantage of the system.
Yep.
Definitely an interesting case, but SCOTUS basically keeping it the status quo.
I mean, on
right?
on SCOTUS's end, like so the decision was 8-1 to uphold the law.
Yeah, and the lone dissenter was
Thomas,
who
I think he's.
I love that guy, but man,
I think he's got a rubber stamp in some ways when it comes to this kind of stuff.
Yeah, he's gonna dissent anyway. There's no downside for him dissenting, and he can make a point about it in issuing a dissent.
And he did say a couple things. He said that not a single historical regulation justifies the statute at issue. He also said, in the interest of ensuring government can regulate one subset of society, today's decision puts at risk the Second Amendment rights of many more. And that was basically what he had said.
He's not wrong. It puts it at risk, but
from their perspective, they're upholding. All they're doing is saying the law that's on the books that already exists. There's nothing here that tells us that this should not be
right.
So, and honestly, like, my opinion, they picked a really, really horrible example to go to bat against. Like, of this is pretty. It's pretty cut and dry that this is a bad dude who did bad things, who is a horrible member of society. I have a hard time believing there isn't some other case of this happening that couldn't have been brought before the court.
Well, that's what you got to wait for then.
Yeah.
Like, maybe this wasn't the time to try and make the point that those laws shouldn't exist, because it's kind of a case where they should. Yeah. Like, he threatened his partner and witnesses
and other people. So anyway.
So SCOTUS, kind of keeping the status quo on that one. However, several other judicial cases, and I'm just going to go through them real quick. I'll call it uplifting news. Some good things happening.
We should have a little sound bite for that. You really should.
Like, a gavel
or something like a gavel, and then the birds flying or something.
Yeah. Not this one. It's the opposite of that.
The opposite of that.
Yeah. So, all right. Since our last episode, a few kind of relevant cases have had some updates to them.
Okay.
One of which being Mock v. Garland, which is pistol braces.
Yes.
On June 13th, this one wasn't SCOTUS. This is one of the lower level U.S. district courts.
Federal or state?
Federal.
Okay.
Vacated the ATF ruling against pistol braces.
Nice.
So as of right now, that's a win. Like, as of right now, the case has been vacated. Does that mean, but it's not SCOTUS level, so I'm sure the government is going to appeal it. But for right now, it's basically like, hey, we're, this is not something you can move forward with.
Right.
Which is pretty distinctive. Which is great, because everyone should be able to use pistol braces. Now I can finally build another pistol build.
Because that's what was stopping him.
Yeah. Maybe. Another case is Garland v. Cargill, and that's bump stocks. And that one did make it to SCOTUS. And that came a day after, on June 14th. And the Supreme Court overturned the, I think it was 2017 Trump-led initiative to ban all bump stocks.
Yeah.
Just done. Nope, overturned. Done. Bump stocks are legal again.
The dumbest accessory One of the
they're
dumbest accessories.
but it's unfortunately turned into a proxy of government overreach and administrative rulings against, basically removing people's rights. Notice I mentioned that was by Trump, right? Like he led that one. Like
that's one of the big.
Neither one of the main candidates right now is friendly to guns. They'll both come after you. It doesn't matter.
And I love. Have you ever heard like the justifications of that they were put out for why that happened?
No, I don't care.
Okay,
but tell me.
Basically, they said that the reason why he did it was because it was basically giving the ATF. Okay, let's give him this one. Because somehow...
because that's how we should totally run a country is by this will make my life a little easier. Let's just remove the rights of citizens.
Right. We'll give them this one, because it'll help us win in other sections. Like, no.
We don't trade. We don't horse trade on rights. Like it's not how it works.
Of course you do.
So those are two big updates. And as of yesterday, there was a new case which is a little bit more obscure that people may not immediately understand. And actually, I got word of this through a friend who just shot me a picture of the it was the front page of the actual bill, or not the bill, the ruling from the Supreme Court. I'm like, what is that? He said, this is a huge day for gun rights. And I'm like, I don't understand this. And then I had to read into it a bit more and understand what has been, like, I'd heard the term before, but didn't really understand it yet. But basically, SCOTUS overturned the legal precedence of Chevron Deference. And
I've heard this mentioned a couple of times.
Okay,
but
so
I did not dig into it. Like I saw it, I mentioned it. I saw it mentioned. I saw they said, "Oh, this is amazing for us," and I was like, "Okay."
So if you want a great explanation. I know we talk about him a lot. Our buddy Curtis over at the VSO Gun Channel has a great video on this that he put out yesterday while he's at GunCon. He's in his truck and just explaining complex legal acumen to the masses. And thank you for doing that. So Chevron Deference is it's a legal precedent, a legal strategy that has been influencing decisions since the 1980s. There was a case called in 1984. It was Chevron USA, Chevron being the oil company, versus the Natural Resources Defense Council. And somewhere in that case, I didn't read into it too much and try to dig into exactly how it came about, but it essentially set the standard for courts deferring to regulatory agencies.
Basically, it's how the ATF got its influence and power.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting to.
Yeah,
exactly. So, basically, the real core of it was that agencies have quote unquote subject matter experts. Like that's their job, right? Is like, okay, well, we regulate this thing. Like the ATF hires gunsmiths and hires people that understand gun laws and guns and all the things related to firearms and alcohol and tobacco. Of course, we should defer to them because they are experts. However, one of the things that came up in the court ruling yesterday and some of the rhetoric from the justices was like, oh, well, but haven't we just seen that over the past 30 years that essentially those agencies are just actors for higher level political authorities?
Yeah. And
actually don't necessarily just give unimpeded and,
objective,
even subject matter advice. That's exactly what we've seen. So that's how this whole thing started with the ATF basically expanding their authority to say pistol braces are now illegal, or bump stocks are machine guns, or the FRT triggers are machine guns, or a piece of like a rubber band is a machine gun. Like, they have the ability to just push whatever boundaries they want because the courts defer to them. All from this case. So yesterday in Loper v. Raimondo, it struck down Chevron Deference, the case that established this legal precedent, which is going to throw the courts into turmoil.
Huge.
It's
That's
huge.
huge.
However, and this is something that Curtis explained in his video too, it's not like it's going to throw out all of the rulings over the past 30 years. Because this isn't like it's not like Roe v. Wade where it's like, hey, we set a rule or a law was on the books or whatever, and then that was overturned and like it changes things everywhere or opens up floodgates. Essentially, it's overturning a strategy, a precedent. So anything at this point that has a challenge to that, like, hey, this was ruled on using Chevron deference to say that say it is a gun ruling where the ATF overstepped, they would have to then bring that back to the court again to say, hey, we want a new interpretation of this because Chevron deference is no longer a precedent, which would probably be beneficial to us or those in the Second Amendment community. However, it has much broader reaching
huge.
Things.
I mean,
in general.
It's going to affect the EPA. It's going to affect, and I mean, basically, it takes all the teeth out of any of the opinion letters that they write. Mm-hmm. Because
not all of it, because they still get the ability to prosecute. However, they will, as they prosecute things that shouldn't be prosecuted, and then it goes back to courts, and courts rule that was not a proper prosecution. Then they're much more obligated to follow those as precedent, because they're not the experts. The courts are saying you are not unbiased in this in this ruling, in this judgment. That's our job. So really, it's a lot of people are saying like, oh, the courts are trying to steal power away from the executive branch, and really, they deferred it. In the 80s and like got lazy when they should have been doing it all along. So this is probably going to mark the start of some big initiatives for like,
oh my God, yes, litigations are going to start.
The Firearms
flying.
Policy Coalition, the Gun Owners of America.
Yes.
They're gonna and not only like a heyday for them in terms of starting to make some new legal arguments. It also means that a lot of this bullshit, like in oversteps of regulations, can be handled on lower court levels. So it means that things will happen a lot sooner and not have to get all the way to the fucking Supreme Court.
Not have to wait 6 months for the decision on
or
the bump
6
stock.
years for some things. The bump stock thing was in 2017.
And quite honestly, like it across the board is a good thing, because there is not a single regulatory agency that has not taken advantage of their position and ability to do this.
So Chevron deference out the door.
Nice.
It's I had to do a little digging into it to understand it, but I'm not going to say it's like, oh, this is huge and amazing, it's going to change everything overnight. But no, it's definitely an inflection point in how the country handles legal issues.
It's no different than Bruin. I mean,
it's a little different than Bruin. That one's more directly related to things that apply to Second Amendment rights.
But I'm just saying it's going to be as wide ranging. It
could be bigger. It could have even farther reaching implications in terms of deregulation and reducing the amount of power that federal agencies have.
I think it's awesome.
Yeah. So, bunch of different legal updates for you this week.
And hopefully you've been thrilled by it.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone is listening with bated breath.
What are they going to talk about next?
Oh my God.
With names that we don't understand and we don't know and we don't care about. Why can't they just show gear?
Yeah, I can't wait for Mike and Max to just start talking about more shit. So there's everything for you tonight from our training tips and bulletin points section, and now we get to move into our discussion topic for this evening.
Exciting one.
Yeah, and this one we were sitting around the table earlier going like, what the hell do we talk about? What can we, like, because we haven't even made it to 20 episodes yet, and sometimes it's real easy to find a topic. Sometimes it's a little bit of a struggle because we're just like, what do people want to hear? And one of the topics that came up for us was, well, why do we keep talking about all this stuff? Why do we keep coming around to it? Like, why do we keep coming back?
And why do we have a podcast? And
Why
what
do
is
we
the
have a podcast?
about?
Why? Why is this like, why do our lives revolve around training? And why have we dedicated so much time to talking about it? And it's all connected. It's all part of the same discussion. But we thought it would be interesting to kind of just take some time and talk about what keeps us coming back to training.
Yep.
So what is it, Max? What brings us back?
What brings
you back?
What brings me back?
Yeah, I'm gonna ask you some questions. You ask me some questions, and
My answer is going to be watermelon.
I've never seen watermelon once at a training event. Not once.
For me, honestly, it's the people, the friendships and the connections that I have made through training. Have 100% influenced my life. They have changed in a lot of ways my outlook on with my family, on my surroundings, what I want to continue to do with my life, where I want to be. I think for me, that's the biggest part of it, is just the people that I get to train with, or the people that I get to help do the training, whatever role I want to play, whether it's role playing or not. That for me, that's the biggest thing.
So people.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it could be the students. It could be the instructors. The best people that I have met in my life have been through that.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I don't want to say that only like all the best people, or like it's only, what's the right phrase? Like you can only find good people in training. It's not.
Not true.
I've found amazing people through like a bunch of different avenues in my life. However, the rate, the number of times I've met so many good people that I want to gravitate around and that I'm drawn to has been much more prevalent in this world, in training.
I mean, there's douchebags. There's plenty of douchebags.
Don't
get us wrong. Like,
yeah, I've met a bunch of people.
There's always going to be that guy, and the statement is always like, if you don't know who that guy is, you're probably that guy. But yeah, I mean, like I had, when I took my first Force on Force class, like there was two of them. There was a twofer.
Oh yeah.
That had no connection to each other.
Just happened to get two guys in one class that not fun to be around.
No. So yeah, like it, and I think for me, like it's a litmus test. Like to a certain extent, like I have been very lucky because I've only trained with people that have been recommended by people that I trust and I care about. So like all the people that I've trained with.
Well, you should break outside of that at some point.
Oh, for sure. But for right now, like that's where I'm at. Like that's what I've done. So I've been lucky in that respect. But yeah, it's like it's a great filter for jackasses.
Yeah. I think my top answer would also have to be people. Like, so, but it's multifaceted too, right? Like some of the closest relationships that I've made over the past 13 years since I started quote unquote training. Like my best friends, actually, not all of them. I still have some really great people in my life that I've known since I was a kid.
Yeah.
So I don't want to discount them at all, but I've added to that, with so many individuals, and it just keeps growing. Like, like you and I, is a great example of like, we didn't really know much of each other until a couple years ago at this point. Like
I kept on hearing, like, if you have radio questions, there's this guy in PA.
He's close to you.
And then there's this guy in North Carolina. Yeah. Like those are the two radio guys. And I'm like, well, I could ask the one in North Carolina, but the one in PA is closer.
Yeah.
So if it's a thing of, hey, I can't help you, you come here.
He chose the wrong one, by the way.
Probably.
I'm so not as good of a radio guy as the guy from North Carolina, Evan Dixon from Radio Music.
It's almost like he has a company.
He does. Yeah. And we name drop all the time because we support our friends.
He's awesome.
But
yeah, so like that was the thing. And then that kind of spurred into a class that you said was my doing because I kept on asking.
Oh yeah, you pestered me for it.
I did.
Yep.
Yeah, and then here we are now. We have a 20-episode podcast.
Yeah, and we've spent way too much time with each other.
Exactly.
But like those are the things that I've experienced in this world on an individual level. So like that is, and it, the individuals have enriched my life to no end, each one of them. But it gets even bigger than that, because not only just have the individuals influenced me, but the groups of those individuals as well, that some of them are in this circle and some of them are in this circle. And then some of those are in a part of an even bigger circle. So like alumni groups, groups around certain training schools, the fact that I've had so much great opportunity to meet people teaching through Tremis Dynamics, or being a student of tactical response, or of various other training schools, and getting to, swim in those different circles.
Yeah.
That enriches all those people as well. And then you get to have groups of friends that talk about certain things, groups of friends that just talk about radio bullshit. And that's, trust me, if you want a good time,
God.
just start talking.
Just your ears will bleed.
Yeah.
You might as well just fall on a sharp object.
The only thing more interesting than listening to a bunch of radio dudes talk about radio stuff is having a conversation with AK guys again about fucking magazines.
They're gay.
Yeah.
They're so gay.
Like, man, every time I get around AK guys, I still can't believe they talk about magazines so much.
Like every time.
Yeah.
It's every
that's
time.
what they talk about.
It's like there's
magazines and furniture.
Yeah, like it's like you have to have the right one, and like, but the right one is expensive. But if it comes from this country, it's okay. But if it doesn't come from that, like,
the only thing I've ever learned about
Jesus
AK mags is that Bakelights are basically like gold. And you know what I've also noticed? Magpuls work from all my guns.
It's
so,
funny.
I've one solution and they're cheap. Okay, great. I'm going to use those.
It's almost like all you need is something that just works.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah,
there's a nuance to it. But like the groups, like those have enriched me, and like the combination of all and so even so beyond the individuals that I've made relationships as friends, the groups, then there's another level of personalities that I've gotten to learn from and interact with, that I maybe not necessarily haven't had the opportunity to like say, oh, well, we've stayed in each other's house, or like we're friends and our families know each other, but like people that I've gotten to learn from and experience things through and listen from, and understand, like, that have changed my understanding of the world. So it's like, it's people on all levels.
I mean, I think so far for me, I mean, for years, I did nothing but delivery. So I've met thousands and thousands of people, but through the training thing is the first time that I've ever met people where my first interaction was either through a text or through social media. And when I met the person, they were the same person. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things, and only for me so far, only through the training community has that been the case on almost every count.
No, I mean, like, I find the people in this world that are like-minded like us, and I just want to also point out too that there is a huge difference between people that are in the firearms world, like that are Second Amendment, like / gun people, and people who train. Yep. Like there is a very fine defined line between those two. And what I'm talking about is people who train. Yep. Because I've met a lot of people who consider themselves to be gun people that I do not necessarily feel connected to, just because they like guns. That is a byproduct or a subsect of like what we do, but like everything that we've been drawn to, and I guess this is a good segue to like another thing that draws us back is it's not just about people. It's about like a meaning. It's about having something to obtain, like self-improvement and I'll even say like social improvement. Like what we get when we get together, we have a sense of building a community around the idea of self-reliance and self-responsibility, personal responsibility that allows us to connect with each other, but also motivate each other to do better and to get better and to learn new things and to improve our lives and the lives of those around us. Like it's much bigger. That's how at least what I've felt throughout this whole thing. And what probably the thing that brings me back the most is being able to connect with that culture.
Yeah.
That sense of identity that we all have. Like it's a sense of identity is not a bad thing. We use it as a kind of a catchphrase nowadays in terms of like, oh, their identity is like a furry, or their identity is a cat, and that's how they identify.
That should all be set on fire.
Well, but like there's absurd things that people that identify as, but it's okay to also have an identity if that identity is constructive and beneficial to you and those around you. So there's a difference. Maybe that's not as well defined as we wish it was.
Well, I mean, like for me, like whether I traveled to Florida, and I was able to find family, and I consider them family that aren't my family. I traveled to North Carolina. I was able to find family. For me, it's more than just like friendship and kinship. It's these people. My bags are packed for them.
Yeah, of course.
And I think for me that's hugely important.
Pretty sure there's a rocket ship launching above our head.
It might be happening. But yeah, I agree 100%. Like it's more than the sum of its parts. And when you're able to get together with a group of those people, like magic happens. Like even if it's just sitting back and listening to conversations.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Okay, so let me take the people out of it.
Yes.
Because I think, that's an easy answer. It's probably one that's even a little bit harder for those of us to grasp, or for people to grasp unless they meet people.
Mm-hmm.
Like that comes with the territory. But what about yourself? Like what has look inward a little bit and tell me how training, like what keeps you coming back to training that has benefited, because assuming that there's a benefit to it, that has benefited you personally.
I mean, a purpose is a huge part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think for most of us in our daily life, there's not a lot. You have certain purpose, but it's hard to find a purpose in like a direction that you want your life to go into. And whenever I go train, it's like my batteries are recharged.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a selfish motivation, but that's okay. I mean, you're allowed to have, selfish motivations that you want to fulfill.
You mean you're supposed to just hate and be miserable with everything you do in life?
Exactly.
You can't enjoy anything?
No, not at all. No enjoyment. But yeah, like for me, like it 100% is an ability to recharge my batteries. And I found that every time.
Mm-hmm.
And also like kind of in a real realignment of my priorities. Like, hey, asshole, you're not doing what you should be doing. You're not doing enough.
Mm-hmm.
And forcing myself into those uncomfortable situations, those uncomfortable, evaluations of where I am.
Yeah.
It helps me stay motivated, and it helps me stay pointed in a direction that I want to be.
Right. For me, I think it's a bit more practical, but there's a caveat to that, because my personality and my motivating factors are sometimes very practically focused.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like, if I probably haven't talked about it much on the podcast, but those people that I know that I have a penchant for like taking on very kind of specific topics and hobbies and disciplines, like with like a huge amount of effort, like I became a private pilot, and I devoted 6 months of my life to just, basically focusing on that. Things like radios. I dive into radios. Like, there are certain practical skills that I really get off on learning.
Mhm.
Like that hits the little dopamine drip in my brain, is like, oh, I learned the thing to do this, and then I can apply it in these ways and affect it. Like, that is very much like a motivating factor for me.
Right.
So the thing that keeps me coming back is twofold. One, I get to learn new things. Like, even to this day, like, I get off on more nowadays learning how to be a better teacher, but that does not mean that I don't go to classes and still learn learn completely new skills and ways of thinking that I didn't expect to see.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, it's great when you get to the point where you can also expand that out to, like, learn practical skills from all different types of experiences. So that gets me going. Like, like taking a class from Sonny Pazikas, like conflict de-resolution. By the way, that's coming up to the Pennsylvania area next month.
Great class. Great.
You should take it.
You should take it.
So I got to take that last year after the Tremis Dynamics muster, and it was, something I'd never experienced before. It was like an acting class, and you have to be able to control your emotions and your complete and total self, and every aspect of what your behavior is to, like, affect the world around you the way you want it to. I'm trying to distill, like, how I think about this class. Never had that skill before. Mm-hmm. Never really attempted to try it. And I'm like, okay, I've got so much more to learn, but it was so much fun learning that completely new thing. Yeah. And going into a new headspace and a new way of trying to tackle problems. Although some of it's also gratifying too. And this is the other aspect, other than the practical side, is the personal growth side. Because something like that class also helped me realize, like, oh, I've grown as a person over time, because there are things that I align well to and can de-escalate or in conflict without doing stupid things. Yeah. And I've seen that through progression as a student as well, with like firearm skills or skills in the outdoors or other things that allow me to go, yes, I am now more capable. That gives me a huge amount of confidence and, again, hits the dopamine drip to say, like, I am more capable for myself, and more importantly for my family, my friends, like the people that I care about. I am now contributing to them. That's a huge motivation for me. Being an asset. Yep. And I'll tell you the one thing that not demotivates me, but motivates me probably more than anything else is I cannot, man, it bums me out to no end to think that I've not met the standard that I hope to meet for my friends. Like that drives me more than anything else. I hear that. It's like I want to be there for the people that I love. And these skills, these types of, like, training has given me the ability to, objectively say I'm better at doing these things, and I'm more capable.
Which is hard for me. Like, that is incredibly hard. Like, there are still people that I know that say these things about me, and I have a very hard time seeing it.
Well, you'll get to a point where and everybody's different. Like, there are some people that are way too ahead of the curve when it comes to, believing in themselves or listening to, like, to accepting compliments or believing in themselves. Mm-hmm. And then there's people that are behind the curve. I tend to be more on the behind the curve side. And it's our goal as friends and people to also, and another great reason what brings us back to the community side of it is we're surrounded by people that don't let us believe in our own bullshit.
Yes.
When it comes to us, thinking, oh, I'm not that good at it. No, we'll have friends that say, no, you're not awesome. Don't get me wrong, but you're certainly not as bad as you fucking think you are. And you need to get that out of your head. And that's a great place to be.
Yep.
people that keep you real, that keep you actually level set to what your capabilities and who you are.
Yep. And support you through it.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think that there, those two aspects, the learning side, the self-improvement side, and the people side are probably the two biggest answers to that. However, what I will say is from if we're listening through this and going like, oh, well, what are things that if we're gonna extrapolate things out of this that we can find useful for either building a training business or being better students, are there things that we can pull from this? And if I was gonna synthesize it into something that's solid, it would definitely be. I think a lot of those things are influenced by culture and alumni culture.
Yeah.
And somehow developing and curating a sense of community amongst students and schools is huge.
Well, I think one of the I think couple core things that I think anyone that's trying to create that community is to encourage people and make sure they understand that just by the fact that they are going through the process of making themselves better and making themselves an asset, it makes them a small part of the whole.
Mm-hmm.
So there are people that will say, "Oh, all I did was took this pistol class." Well, you've done more than what the majority of the population does, which I think in one way kind of encourages people to keep coming back because they see themselves as actually accomplishing something that most people are not. And creating a group of people, or at least giving them the space to support each other as best as they can.
Mm-hmm.
Making them accountable for their bullshit, which you have to do. But creating a space where people can be open, can talk, and where it's encouraged to help that person out, to not necessarily be thinking about, oh, do I have enough stuff for the class? How about the idea of, do I have enough stuff that if someone doesn't have what they need, you can help them through that?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is an attitude, and that is a mindset that 100% has helped many alumni groups be successful and continue to grow.
Yeah, I think finding that right balance, the right things to influence and to kind of motivate your alumni is very important, and encouraging them to do that. I think that's the biggest one. Some schools are more insular, some schools are more about reaching out and kind of being open to new things, and I think it's good to have the mix and see the different types of things, but definitely encouraging students to reach out and connect with each other is what has I think really influenced the people around us.
Yeah,
and built that community. And
part of it is if you're going to try and foster, I keep saying create's the wrong word, because all you can really do is foster the opportunity for it to come into existence. But you've got to be walking the walk, not just talking it. If you're saying that this group of people should be there to support each other, and you're not doing that, it's not going to succeed.
Right.
And that's something that the only person that can really do that are the people that are the leaders of. I don't know if leaders is probably the wrong word. I don't know what word I would come up with.
Well, the influential people.
The influential people, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's important too to identify if you're building a school, or you have a group of people that you're a part of, and you're one of those leaders within it, or one of those people that others look to, is helping identify who the others are, and then coordinating with them, or really keeping each other in check is part of that too, and helping each other and basically set the right example.
Yeah.
I think is important. But so aside from culture, community, those types of things. Obviously, building one, if you have a school or you're part of a school, is helping encourage, do all that stuff, and you will find that people gravitate to that every time.
Yeah, agreed.
It's the natural aspect of what we do. I think if I was going to crystallize the personal aspect, like the accomplishment aspect that we did or that we talked about, it would really be about assessing and making sure that you're offering, or that there is some sort of progression, things that offer skills that people want to take.
I was just going to say, like if you can have a curriculum that has a purpose and has a direction and a way to continually improve upon itself, I think that's huge.
Yeah. And it's 2 parts too.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of thinking through this right now, because there's the part that people want.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's the, hey, we're a firearms school, or like we're a community that works on this particular thing. There's offering and developing the skill set of the thing that people think they want, right? Oh, I want to progress in pistol skills. Okay. We're going to work on pistol skills together. Or I just want to learn how to do high speed fucking, rifle stuff. Okay. Well, we're going to work on that stuff too. But it's also identifying things that people don't realize they want.
Or don't know they need.
Or don't know they need. Yeah. Like, again, to come back to like Sonny Pazikas. You know what? Most people don't think they need a de-escalation class. But everyone needs that.
A de-escalation
like,
class.
You need that more than anything else, because that'll keep you from having to use all the other skills.
Yeah, like you won't need to possibly won't need to employ all the other skills that you have learned.
Or it's a matter of finding ways to encourage your people to learn like important skills that they don't think are sexy. Like I think in a lot of the school or the circles that we swim in, that medical has a pretty high, like people look at it as an important thing. However, some places it's not. So it's a matter of like, well, let's find the motivators that get people up to speed on that particular thing, because it's important.
So there's something. So inside all of this, the idea of what would keep you from not going back, I think a disregard of medical's importance for me, like it's an immediate disqualifier. Like I immediately have no interest in what you have to say. Like for me, that is one of those things that, like, if we are going to handle things that put holes in people and you don't see the importance in the ability to plug said holes, like for me, that is a disqualifier.
I hear you. And I don't,
maybe to my detriment, maybe not necessarily.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of things that would keep me from going back. And I wouldn't necessarily say that a de-emphasis of medical would keep me from going back, because for me, I'm at a point where I'm like, I don't need that from every single person, because I know people to go to for it. And like I know something that's my like wall, something, but like I try to not let that be the thing that won't let me go back, is like a very rigid interpretation or execution of like dogmatic fundamentals.
Yeah.
Not because I don't think I can learn past that and learn around it and still get a positive experience from things, but because I find that the personalities that enforce those, I don't mesh well with.
Yeah.
Because I find it to be like a personality difference rather than a fundamental thought difference. Like, it's not that I think that we shouldn't do the thing that you're preaching. It's that I disagree with the fact that you're not putting any critical thought into it.
Right.
And that I have a hard time getting over sometimes.
Well, because immediately you're going to think to yourself, what else aren't they putting critical thought behind?
Well, that's part of it, but it's sometimes just like a rigid follow. Like I don't do well in that environment. Like right. I like to interact with people that I can have conversations with, to talk around subjects and to discuss back and forth. And I find that if there's a rigid, dogmatic approach to something, there is no discussion about it.
Right.
There is no other side. And man, if there's anything I've learned so far, is that there's always another side, and that may be complete batshit crazy wrong. But to say that there isn't another side is almost as bad as saying that there's, something that's wrong, because you have to think about stuff. But I try not to let that get in my way either, of like saying like, oh, I don't find value out of this, because at the end of the day, you can get that from it. You can get a positive experience from anything. Even a bad clash, you can get a positive experience
even if
from.
it shows you what not to do.
Yeah. I think if I had an absolute hard no, it's any
Redheads.
No, that's a hard yes.
A hard yes.
Yes. Gingers. Yeah.
Mm.
But it would be, I definitely would not go back to a class or a place that disregarded safety. And I'm not talking about the rigid interpretation of like, we have to follow these exact rules. There has to be this plan. There has to be this thing. If it's flippant to the idea that you can be safe, like, oh, we don't need to worry about that.
Yeah.
That is not okay with me. I think there needs to be a level of seriousness, a level of professionalism. And I find that when that's not enforced, it encourages a culture that's bad. So I'm like, that's the only thing I'll like, more than anything else, be like, no, no, thank you. I'll just not be a part of that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more on that one. Like, that's one of those things, like you like, again, you have, if you are going to be teaching people, you have to understand that you are influencing what they are going to potentially do, and how they're going to act, and how they're going to think, and what they're going to decide to do. That is a huge, huge level of responsibility. And if you are just going to disregard that and the seriousness of it, I have no interest in learning from that person.
So like, just to get back to something that I think has brought me back around to a lot of things. Like I think before I started teaching with Tremis Dynamics, one of the things that always like caught my interest about, Gary in particular, but like schools that I know he's been a part of too. And, places like Tactical Response or other places we've trained with, there is a progression. There is a logical way to get from the next thing, and you feel like you're accomplishing things as you progress through a curriculum. That's definitely had me, like, that's caught me as a return student.
Right.
Like things that allow me to explore my skill set in different ways, that give me a attainable goal. Like those are the things that I think are really practical ways to like keep us coming back.
Yeah, I mean, like in the idea of also that like they're doing something no one else is doing.
Well, that's a whole nother thing too. Right?
Like for instance, like taking FAFO with Jay Gibson,
Prelectus training.
In 2 days, I have a hard time imagining
somebody doing that level of stuff in a 2 day
Oh my
class.
God! Like when he started presenting what we were going to be doing, I was like, not only am I in the deep end right now, but I'm going to be drowning really soon. It's coming.
Yeah.
But like if you haven't trained with Jay Gibson and Prelectus training, you really are missing something special. That man has a way of summing things up in the shortest amount of words possible. And he has an ability to instill a confidence in you that you can get it done. And the fact that we went from just basic rifle drills to movement drills to vehicle tactics to patrolling tactics, it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean he's exceptional. And I can't say enough great things about Jay, but I will say that I agree. It's the people that are doing the unique things that is a whole nother thing that'll keep me coming back. Like 8 Bear Adventures out in Somerset, Ohio. Bob and the crew out there, they do crazy, like not crazy shit. And when I say crazy, I just mean things that I just never thought I'd be able to experience, like the live tissue lab or some of the small unit tactics stuff they're planning on doing. And like, it's awesome. Like it's legitimately amazing experiences that like you never thought were going to be possible because you thought there were limitations. And, you know, it's just great to see people pushing boundaries as to like, this is what we can accomplish in a week. And there are some trainers that I haven't gotten to train with yet that also fall into that category. Like, top of my head right now is Brush Beater down in North Carolina area. I have not been able to find any other class or any other school out there that offers a series of classes that deal with like the craft of being outside and patrol or reconning and doing things with radios that they do. Right. There's radio trainers out there. Don't get me wrong, but it looks like they've really devoted to teaching a curriculum that focuses on something that nobody else is doing, which is like scout craft skills. Yeah. Where, hey, we're gonna put you out in the woods and you're gonna learn how to recce. You're gonna learn how to be a proper scout. You're gonna learn to use radios as a radio, an RTO. They've been on top of my list for so long, and I got to make it happen. But like there's people out there that are doing shit that just nobody else does.
I mean, Andrew's a perfect example. Andrew is constantly developing new curriculum and from combat art training, and like he's patrolling the homestead class.
Yeah, no one's out there offering a patrolling class. Well, some are. Actually, I've seen some popping up, but it's still not part of a traditional curriculum. It's not even. There's no live fire. It's all scout, or I'll call it scout or outdoor craft skills, where it's like, hey, or SUT, where we're gonna interact as a unit and do teamwork type stuff. Those are the things that get my jollies off nowadays, and offering like especially anything teamwork related. I love doing that stuff. Like I love
or Sonny Pazikis, who, having taken his class, thinks differently than the way he instructs is just different. Mm-hmm. It's just different. Yeah. And opening your eyes to just a different way of thinking about it, a different way of approaching things, even a simple thing of, what you do if you do get into an altercation. We're always taught to make space. Yep. Whereas his philosophy is close space. It gives your opponent less options.
Sure. Yeah.
And just that simple idea. And so finding someone that is doing something different, or if you are a teacher that is doing something different, or you have an idea for something that you don't see out there, like those are the things that 100% are going to attract attention. And then if you have all those other things we just talked about, then you're going to have, in my opinion, people coming back for more.
Yeah. And not everything appeals to everybody. Like I think we're at a similar point where those new things do appeal to us, but it may not be the thing for every student. So It all depends on who you're trying to attract and what culture you're trying to create. And there's no right or wrong answer to any of it. It's just I think these are things that we found that keep us coming back for more. Yeah, like things that keep us addicted from all those.
Yeah. How many times?
I need more of the training drug.
How many times have you taken fighting pistol?
It's going to be like 7. So I'm taking it. Well, I'll be at the fighting pistol class up in Sugarloaf, September 29th and 30th.
I will be there as well.
Oh, awesome. And then fighting rifle, I've also taken a bunch of times, but it's not at that point, it's not even about like learning the skill set more. It's just, it's about being immersed in learning. Yeah. And, it's, you do it, sometimes you do things over again because you'll learn more of it the next time. But, so I think that does a pretty good job of explaining things that have kept us coming around. And we even dove into things that make us not want to. Yeah. Which is important to avoid, I think. And important for everyone to have an idea in their head of what they do not want to see. Because like I can't even say I would be able to articulate that a couple of years ago. Like things that I would not want to see in a class.
I never thought that I would be in a class where I was working on pigs that had been given trauma injuries. Like if you asked me,
no, of course not.
If you asked, I
didn't even know that existed.
If you asked me 4 years ago, like, hey, like, I would have been like, that's a no for me.
Yeah.
So I think that's just an example of being exposed to all these things, maturing as a student, which is hugely important. And that's another thing. Like, teachers that give the students the opportunity to mature. Because there are some instructors that don't. And if you have the ability to help your students mature and grow, that's another thing that's going to keep them coming back, no matter what the instruction is about.
Yeah, I mean, there should always be room for people to expand their own horizons, and to make themselves better, whether or not that's by just progressing down the line that you give them, that you provide for them, or that is expected, or if they forge their own path, I guess, and kind of take their own way about it. It should be positive, but I don't know. Is there anything else? No. Anything else you can think of in the keeping us around, having us coming back? I
mean, there's the physical part of like the facility and that kind of stuff. Yeah. But quite honestly,
capabilities of a place are big, but
that can 100% be overshadowed and fixed by the amazing curriculum and instructors.
Yeah, I think instructors is cadre. Yeah. I mean, that's huge. I think that really falls into the people category of like the influential people within your circles. Like they have influence, and like those are like really the heroes in my opinion within the story. But like without a good cadre and without a good curriculum, a facility doesn't mean anything.
Right.
But it can be such an enhancement. It can be so, like if you have an indoor shoot house and then can build a curriculum with great trainers and a great curriculum around worthwhile force on force training, or force on paper, or things that just help develop that's so awesome. Yeah. Like it's such a game changer. But if you don't have those other things, then it's just a shitty house. Like it's taking up space because if you need to use it.
I literally have done force on force in a crack house, like no joke, in a crack house. And it certainly was not the facility we were using or the surroundings that made it an amazing class.
Right. But I think that's the easy answer too, and sometimes one that everyone relies maybe too much on. Is like, oh, if I build it, they will come. Well, no.
What are you building?
Yeah, what are you building, and how are you using it? Like, really, that's the answer. If you use it, will they come? Like, that's what you need to ask. But, because like you can have a super amazing range, but if you're an asshole, nobody wants to come there.
You got it.
Like it's just like it's an easy thing to understand sometimes. Of like. Yeah, you can have 400 acres, but if you don't encourage people to actually like, utilize it and use it for things other than just, well, we're going to put some cars over there and we're going to invite some machine guns twice a year to come shoot up those cars. Otherwise, everyone can fuck off. Like if that's what you have, then you'll never create.
Yeah, you'll get interesting videos twice a year.
Yeah, like, and I know places like that are just like, they just want to do that one thing, and it's just like it doesn't matter what you have.
No,
it's who you are and what you encourage.
That's why it's not like the facility thing is kind of like an anecdote.
Oh yeah, it's an addendum. It's a bonus.
Yeah, it's a bonus.
If you have something cool, let me tell you though, it's probably a lot easier to build a culture and an environment where people want to keep coming back around. Yeah. So if you want to build that culture, call me. I will help. Especially if you have...
he has a website that's sort of devoted to...
Bulletn is obviously its thing, but I'm just saying, like, man, we need more people that have resources, and it's very tough in the Pennsylvania area to find facilities that serve people who want to train. So.
Yeah.
Always looking for contacts, not even just in this area, but anybody that's looking to help build a culture of training and the things that we've been talking about throughout this whole thing. Not that I'm sure there's going to be like 2 people that listen this far.
At least
maybe.
6. At least 6.
You know,
I'm shooting for 6.
But if you know of anybody looking for that, please, like, let's connect people together. Like, if you have places and land, we have people, and we can make those 2 things jive well together.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, like, if you're listening to this and you've listened this far into it, like, guys, comment. Like, we want your interactions back. Even if it's you're telling us that we're both gay and we should shave our beards, whatever.
You know, no one's going to hear. We got to tell them to comment up earlier because nobody will get this far to comment.
That's true.
So.
Maybe he'll cut this out and put it at the beginning, then put it back at the end again.
I'm done with cutting. I don't.
But
like
yeah,
cutting.
I mean, like really, like interaction from you guys would be awesome. Just saying.
Yep. Talk to us.
Please.
Let us know what you're thinking. Come over to the Bulletn community on Facebook. Yep. You know, if you're not liked and subscribed on this channel, do that, and Max's channel over at Max's Path, and you know, keep sticking around for riveting discussions like this one, and our news stories, and more Berm Limits podcast.
Yes, and remember to visit our friends, Combat Art Training, Defiant Munitions. These are great people, and your money has power, so use it. Yeah, use it where it can influence things better.
Use it to support good people.
Yep.
And that's what those guys are. So
exactly.
Thanks everybody for listening, and we'll catch you next time on the Berm Limits podcast.